Alright, this is Landstalker for the Sega Mega Drive, Sega Genesis. I picked this game up just last week, had never heard of it before. It was in good shape, so I picked it up. I had no idea. This game's actually a little bit on the rare side, and, well, it's worth a little bit more than your average Genesis game, so I did alright picking this one up. Let's check this out, shall we? This game was developed by Climax Entertainment, published by Sega. This game was released in October of 1992 in Japan, originally for the Japanese Mega Drive. Came out in North America and Europe in 1993. You play as a treasure hunter named Nigel, and the whole game is played in this isometric view. It's a little bit confusing at first. Everything's in a 45-degree angle. I've seen games like this before on the NES, and Shadowrun on the SNES is another good example, but the entire game is played in this 45-degree, they call it an isometric view, and it's pretty neat. I think it looks pretty good. It gives a cool depth to all the buildings and stuff when you're in the towns, and it's different for a change, that's for sure. So here we start off. This is basically the first dungeon that you go through. You're really just learning the controls. Your character can jump and attack, and that's really it. You actually only use two of the buttons on the Genesis. A and B basically do the same thing. But it really plays like a typical action-adventure RPG. Yes, I would say there's a lot of similarities to Zelda in this game. But it's a little bit different in some ways. Obviously, the isometric view, like I said, you control your character only using the diagonals on the D-pad, so that may take a little bit getting used to, but it's actually not too bad. Now, like I said, I picked this game up, never heard of it before, and looking at the back of the cover art, it really looks like it's one of those sort of battle tactics games like Ogre Battle or Final Fantasy Tactics or Shining Force even, but it's totally not. So I was totally surprised by this game. I was expecting it to be one of those tactical fighting combat games, whatever you want to call it, and I really don't like those kind of games at all. I don't like RPGs that much to begin with. There's a few that I've gotten into a little bit, but those tactical ones where the whole game is just, fight scene after fight scene, not my kind of game at all. And so I saw this, it was like $5-6, but, it was in really good shape, and I don't know, I had a feeling maybe it was a little bit more rare of a game. I've never seen it before, and, I popped it in to check it out, and like I said, right away I was totally surprised. Your game has all the typical locations in every town. It's got like an inn where you can pay to stay the night and regain your HP, and you've got your stores where you can go in and buy potions and stuff to heal yourself with. So all that's in here. You enter the church here to do a few things. Your main thing here is you can save. So right now I'm saving, but you can also heal yourself and some other things in the church. The whole game takes place on an island, which you move from spot to spot on the island, on the overworld. It's not like a lot of RPGs where you have like an overworld and then a map view. It's more like Zelda in that it's all the same thing. You basically just have the upper world, which can bring you from one end of the world to the other, and then you have the dungeons. And there's a lot of dungeons in this game. You start off, with all your basic equipment, and you can get better equipment as you go through the game. You can equip better swords and better armor, and eventually you get the ability to charge up the energy of your sword once again, very much like Zelda. Your hit points are shown as hearts. You pick up hearts through the game to give you a higher hit point total. And you know, if you look at the center top of the screen, you'll see 11 out of 11. That means I have 11 hit points out of 11 total. The big heart represents 10, and then the small hearts represent obviously 1. Beside that, it shows your eek, which is sort of like your lives. It's a special plant that restores either 11 hit points or half of your hit points, whichever's greater. And you know, if you die, you actually, you know, you don't really die, you just fall to the ground. And Friday, which is a little nymph, it's kind of, once again, it's kind of like Zelda. You have a little flying fairy thing that follows you around, and sometimes it helps you out. And when you die, it restores you with the Eek. So it's basically like your lives when you die, and you can buy those in stores, or you can find them in treasure chests. And then the far right of the screen is your gold, which obviously you pick up from treasure chests or killing enemies, and you use that to buy things in the shops. In 2005, they said they were going to remake this game for the PlayStation Portable. That never happened, but this game was actually put onto the Wii Virtual Console in 2007. You know, I'm so surprised. Every time I go to review a Genesis game, I end up saying it was put on the Wii Virtual Console, and it's funny because some of these games, like I said, I've never even heard of before. I've never even seen this game before. And I've noticed that with a lot of Genesis games, you know, ones I've never even heard or seen before, and lo and behold, it's on the Virtual Console. So this game has battery backup, obviously, thank goodness. It's sort of the kind of game that needs it, but it has actually 4 save slots, which is pretty cool. So I was surprised to see that. The game came out in Japan originally, like I said. Oddly enough, the Japanese version is region-free, so you could import that if you wanted to, but the North American and European versions are region-locked, so that's pretty neat. And there's some stuff in the Japanese version that is not in our version. This game's incredibly long. I mean, you can spend 20-30 hours on this game. You know, it's a huge game. There's a lot of items that you can collect, and you know, obviously weapons and armor and stuff like that. This is on a 16 megabit cartridge. You know, there's a lot of graphics. There's a lot of varying scenes, and like, you know, all the towns look different. You know, you don't go from one town to the next and they look, you know, the same, except stuff's moved around. You know, there's a lot of different details in different towns. You know, they have a totally different art style or design style. So you know, it's a pretty big game. It's a long game. You know, obviously I just picked this game up. Actually, I just started playing it the other day. So I'm not nearly that far into it. I'm actually only a few hours into it, but there's a sequel to this game on the Super Nintendo. It's called Landstalker, Challenge from the Past. That was released in Japan on the Super Famicom in 1995. And there's a game called Dark Savior, produced by the same company on the Sega Saturn, which is also considered to be a spiritual success. Those characters also appear in the Dreamcast game Time Stalkers, also developed by Climax Entertainment, and it's a similar type of game. And so there you go, that is Landstalker for the Sega Genesis. Like I said, it's an action-adventure RPG, very long game, so if you're looking for an action-adventure RPG, you want to put some time into your Sega Genesis, this is definitely one worth checking out. Maybe a little harder to find locally, but if you look on eBay, you can find it for about 20 bucks complete, so it's not too expensive, and definitely worth checking out if you're into this type of game. And see you guys later.